IPSC, the international version of the sport, they hold a world shoot for each of the disciplines. It's somewhat the Olympics of the sport.
I will say it was very impressive to see people from other countries, other shooting cultures using ammo that we would probably look at as not quite good enough for what we want to do, and they were doing very good.
What is up, everybody? We're going prestige worldwide with this thing. I've got Mr. Adam Maxwell and Mr. Reuben Aleckson, and today we're going to talk about the IPSC Shotgun World Shoot.
That's a mouthful.
Yeah, I want to say ICP, Insane Clown Posse.
Most people just say IPSC.
Okay, that makes sense.
But I wanted you
too.
to struggle with that a little bit. It's for the people.
Yeah, I mean,
we're pleasers.
That's the official. It's like using somebody's formal name,
right? Yep.
And then from now on, we can say IPSC.
Yep.
I mean, you hear that term all the time: IPSC, target, things like that. You know?
Yep.
Reuben, this is something you've done.
Yeah, mm-hmm.
You went.
I did in 2023.
Yeah, I've even got at the bottom here. I printed this off. It says 2023 IPSC Shotgun World Shoot Team USA results. Second place. Your name is there. It says 13th overall.
Yeah.
Nice work, dude.
Thank you. I think it was about 700-ish people from about 40 countries.
That sounds about right. Yeah, I've seen numbers around 650-ish in there, or something like that. When I was doing some reading, it seems like it's grown a little bit every year.
Mm-hmm.
Not a young shoot, not an old shoot. What, 2012 I think is what I was had in there. Is kind of like the first one. Really cool event. I mean, for starters, guys. I mean, tell me what is the Shotgun World Shoot? What is it, and why should a person be interested in it? Why are you guys interested in it?
So IPSC, the International Practical Shooting Confederation, is the international umbrella that all action shooting kind of fits under.
Mm-hmm.
USPSA that we talk about a lot. USPSA is the United States chapter of IPSC to the world. And then pretty much all the action shooting that exists as we know it in the U.S. is some derivative thereof or relative to. So IPSC, the international version of the sport, they hold a world shoot for each of the disciplines on a rotating basis. So there's a world shoot every year, but they rotate disciplines every year. So as we're coming up to the IPSC World Shotgun Shoot, Reuben was at the last one in 23. The next one is in Greece in 26. And
23 was in Thailand.
Yes.
Nice.
And it's somewhat the Olympics of the sport. So for every discipline. So handguns every 3 years, rifles every 3 years, shotguns every 3 years, kind of on a rotating basis. And now PCC is in the mix, so I'm not sure if it's going to be an every 4-year thing. That's still being debated.
Interesting.
But for this discipline of action shooting, for action shotgun shooting, we're coming up on the Olympic year of action shotgun competition. And so similar to the Olympics, every chapter, every country selects a team to go to the world shoot. They can field a team of 4 people in every category. So Reuben was on the overall open team for the U.S. or for USPSA.
Okay.
To the IPSC.
Yeah, the U.S. the U.S. delegation to the World Shoot.
Gotcha.
Yep.
And then what categories or disciplines are there? So you were in the open class, Reuben.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? Like, what did your shotgun look like?
Well, it's open division shotguns look differently, kind of based on where you are and what kind of equipment you can get. Call it the podium finishers. The top finishers are probably all running a box-fed shotgun. So mine is a Vepr, basically a custom shotgun made in Russia, but customized here in the U.S. by Dissident Arms down in Texas. So it's box-fed shotgun. Mine has, let's see, you kind of go through and pick all of your options, but compensated, right? Like everything's fit to me, adjustable stock, box magazines. So in IPSC, we're limited to basically 10-round magazines when we go overseas, right? So here in the U.S., if we were shooting in 3-gun, we could run a 20-round magazine, a 15-round, whatever we want to. But within IPSC, it's designated kind of a limited capacity.
Okay.
Yep, but kind of a Kalashnikov-based platform is what most of them are, and that's fairly unrestrictive division, except for the magazine capacity, which I think that was somewhat political when the guns started getting really good. Other divisions, like I'm going to try out for the modified team, and where Reuben's saying a box-fed gun, so we're thinking about a magazine like we would traditionally picture, like a pistol magazine or a rifle magazine.
You pulled
It's
that
a
out
box
like it
with
was
a
like a
spring.
magic trick.
It's not magic. I practice a lot.
I felt like you almost you showed me the coin behind my ear.
Look what I got. But it's a piece of steel with a spring in it. Whereas where all the other divisions are tube fed divisions. So it's more of a traditional shotgun with a tube and a spring in it that you load from the bottom.
You see a lot of Benelli M2s, Beretta A400s, stuff like that. So semi-auto.
Okay.
You're loading them either 2 at a time or 4 at a time from some sort of caddy system on your belt.
Yep. And so a modified division, the stipulation is it has to be a tube-fed gun, and there's an overall length that it has to be. I think it's...
Ooh, don't look at me for that.
I want to say it's like 52 inches or something like that. But there's a gauge. It's like it can only be this long, and as long as it's tube-fed and it fits in the gauge, you can basically use it. So
unmodified, you're running optics. You're typically running some sort of compensator, big extended magazine tube. Fun fact, in modified, if you're starting with a full tube, in modified, you have more ammunition in the gun than I do in open.
Interesting.
Right? So it's kind of a trade-off, right?
So is the advantage that you have, Reuben, just the form factor?
Well, loading the gun. I load the gun 10 rounds at a time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
Or
if
it's
you need to
individual
reload.
shells.
But within IPSC, we're getting a little bit off topic here, but within IPSC, you're going to have like short courses, medium courses, and long courses.
Mm-hmm.
And the long courses are going to be, upwards of like 30 rounds in a course. Medium courses are typically, I believe, under 20 rounds, and the short courses will be like 10 rounds or less, more or less.
Okay.
I could be off a little bit on my numbers there, but like on a course, like a short course, maybe it's 8 rounds, maybe it's 6 rounds, something like that. If we're starting with an unloaded gun, like some of the start conditions, maybe you're completely unloaded. I can put 10 in the gun pretty quickly if it's unloaded, but if the gun condition is loaded start, that modified shooter has a little bit of an advantage on me because they have a couple more rounds than I do in the gun.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But you're not competing against each other, though.
No,
I
just
mean-
different divisions.
Yeah, correct.
And so, like, within the divisions, the decision they're making is a little bit different. So Reuben doing one reload, like in an 8-round course, he would know that he has a couple extra shots off the gate if he needs them. Whereas if a tube-fed gun starts unloaded, they're also essentially deciding how many shells are they going to load. Are they going to load exactly what they need and gamble that they get them all, or one more, 2 more? Because every shell that you load costs time, so it's a little bit different of a strategy question depending which division you're in.
But nobody, at least to my knowledge, I'm relatively inexperienced in the IPSC world. I did want to go, and I did go to represent the U.S. in Thailand, but that was kind of my first step in, away from like U.S. multi-gun shooting and tactical shotgun matches into like the IPSC world. That was my first foray into that. But from what I saw and heard and talked with other people about, you don't get people like in the manual division shooting a pump shotgun really concerned about anybody else other than the people in manual division, right? Like me going competing in open, like technically I have the most capable equipment, the most go fast equipment. So I'm kind of thinking about the other shooters in open and kind of hoping that like I don't really get surpassed by people with equipment that's not as capable as mine, right? Because that's my problem. I'm not running the gun as well as I can or as efficiently as I can. But typically you're only focused on shooting your game and how you perform, and then compared to other people that are shooting the same or similar gear.
Right.
Right.
Right. So there's open, modified, and then is there another division as well?
There's manual.
There's manual, which is a restrictive pump division. And then there's standard, which is essentially a semi-auto tube-fed gun with a lot of restrictions. So no optics, limited capacity,
no compensators,
gotcha.
stuff like that. And everything pretty much fits into those 4 categories.
What style of optic are you guys using then?
I run the Defender XL on mine, the 5 MOA dot version. I like the big window and the quick battery change. Like, not that I needed to change batteries during the competition, but if a battery costs $1, I'm going to put new ones in every day just to make sure that there's nothing that could go wrong. So the XL, because of its form factor and window size and durability, you see all shapes and sizes. You see people running the big tube style dots. You see people running micro dots. You see things like holographic sights. You do see a lot of different variations, but I don't necessarily want to go too big either, right? I'm kind of trying to keep the whole system very very efficient and making sure that I have what I need. I don't have any more than I need.
I actually ran the Defender CCW for a while on my shotgun.
It does not make sense.
Very, very minimalist, like shotguns are so they're sleek and kind of fit centric that like I didn't really need a whole lot from a dot. So for a while I was running the CCW. Right now I think I have an ST on my gun right now.
I put a CC dub, I guess by almost de facto. It was the only one that we had in the series at the time.
Yeah,
so
same.
I put it on a turkey gun.
Yep,
and really liked it.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't tried the other ones on a turkey gun yet, but I'd be anxious to do it. But yeah, I mean, I liked it. It was slick. You get sat low. Like, yeah, I thought it was.
I ran the XL. I ran the XL. Like, even though these are race guns and they're made for going fast and being super efficient, they are still fit to you. So that gun is still fit to you. And in an ideal world, you have a good cheek weld on the stock and the gun's length of pull is adjusted for you. But one of the things about IPSC that's really interesting is they throw in some kind of curveballs. Like, they don't necessarily tell you you're going to shoot left-handed or weak side, but they might put a position in there where that's the best way to get around some sort of barricade or wall or something like that. So you want to, for me, I was looking at the bigger window red dot just because I might have to shoot from kind of an awkward position, or we did have some prone. We were shooting shotguns prone, and so I don't want to not be able to see through the dot because I can't get the right cheek weld or something.
Yep.
For sure. I mean, one thing I saw here, we're talking 5 days of shooting.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And more than 30 stages of fire.
Yeah.
Like, that's a lot of shooting.
And it's hard stuff.
It's mentally very challenging stuff. I was lucky enough to go with some very experienced IPSC shooters. My team was Mike Whitesides, Lan Wen, and Scott Green. And Scott Green has, I believe this was his 3rd IPSC World Shoot. He was, spoiler alert, he did win individual gold. So Scott's, right now, he's the reigning champ in the world as far as IPSC shotgun goes. So I had a lot of coaching and a lot of people to bounce ideas off of, but there is a lot of kind of almost like you're choreographing what you're going to do. You see the videos of people, kind of memorizing stage plans and where targets are and where they're going to reload. It's kind of like at another level at a world shoot because you have to do that in like 5 minutes. You don't get much time to really walk through the stages, and once the first shooter goes, you're not able to just continue to walk through the stages. You have your walkthrough time period, and then you're ready to go.
Yeah, that's different than in the U.S. Most action shooting events, like the day before the match, the range is open for observation. You can go up and you could lick every one of the targets if you wanted to. I would not recommend that for a variety of reasons. But
particularly if other folks are too.
Yeah, exactly. But you can very intimately get in there and scope out the stages in almost all. I don't know that anybody's restricting walkthroughs. Where an IPSC thing is kind of that they'll have a tape line like behind it, offset, so you can see it, but there's like a boundary line. You can't go all the way up and physically stand in the position until your squad is up to shoot, and they give you a designated walkthrough time. So everybody's doing in 3 minutes in IPSC?
It actually varied a little bit, but depending on the stage.
Yeah, but they'll give you
less than 5 minutes.
3 to 5 minutes.
And is that everybody all at once?
On your squad, right?
On your squad.
So I shot on the US squad, US team. We were on a squad with the Thai team, the Thai national team, and the team from the UK. So there was 12 of us.
Mm-hmm.
So it took all 12 of us had to get through it.
So, and then, I mean, that's number one. That's even if you're going one at a time, like, you know, like you said, it's fairly complex, a lot of strategy. You know, you're thinking through and solving this puzzle as you're doing your mental dry run through.
Yep.
Like, I would see that even being challenging. You have 12 people up there doing the same thing. Like, even being able to see what you want to see, or are you like kind of going in and like, you know, like stepping things off and like you said, planning your reloads at certain spots where you're like, God, I wish this guy would get out of my way so I could figure this out.
From what I understand, in the U.S., it's a pretty casual thing. Like, there's kind of an etiquette to it. Like, take your turn. Everyone kind of conga lines through.
Okay.
It's a little bit more competitive in IPSC. Like, hey, this is a compressment. Like, get in there, have a look, and then I'm coming in to push out of the way.
It was very structured. It was very if you didn't go by shooting order, you were going with your team, and so in line, hey, there's 4 people behind you, there's 6 people behind you. You need to make sure that you get this done so the person behind you can go. And I guess it was very structured, but also people wanted you to do well, right? So no one was rude about it, but there was a cadence to it where it was, let's get this done, because then we have to go back and get our stuff ready and be ready to shoot. I
guess kind of go take a look, and we're doing it live.
Pretty much.
Pretty much.
What's the overall vibe like? I mean, you've got people from all over the world. You're doing something you're passionate about. Like you said, you know, by the nature of being there, pretty competitive folks in the space. Is it a very serious vibe the whole time? Like, all work and no play? Is it like pretty casual between? Are people getting along? Are people giving you the stink eye? Like, what's going on there?
Oh, well, you know, I have kind of limited experience, having only done it once, but my read off of it was you're there representing the country that you're from. And so there's kind of a weight on your shoulders to represent well, and to not squander the opportunity to hopefully hold your flag on the stage in front of 1,000 people. So with that being said, there's a certain amount of, I guess, starting off, a little bit of jitters, and so maybe people were pretty serious to kind of start that off, right? Like, I'm here for a task, and this is what I'm going to do. I want to represent the people of the country where I'm from well. It loosened up a little bit over a few days. There's also language barriers, right? So we had a little bit of a language barrier with one of the teams that we shot with, and so I'm born and raised in central Minnesota, and I'm all the way across on the other side of the world with people, and I'm shooting in their home country. So a little bit of a language barrier and also a cultural barrier, understanding maybe different tones of voice, how things can be taken, and also just like the norms of their communication, how you communicate, different. You don't start off with sarcasm. You don't start off with joking around. You start off like, okay, I want to make sure that I'm doing a good job. I'm also there representing Vortex, like the company that I've been privileged to work for over a decade. So, Yeah, you kind of start off very, very respectful. By day 4 or 5, you're joking around like they're a bunch of your friends and people that you've shot on the range a lot with. But yeah, I would say the vibe started off as very, very like we're here for a thing to do and we're gonna get it done. But there was no funny business. No one was hijacking anybody's plans. If you ask somebody what they were gonna do in a specific part of the stage, they would tell you and be honest with you. But
can you describe like a stage? Because this isn't, your traditional trap skeet type stuff. I mean, like describe like a stage, like maybe one that you remember or stood out, was a little bit tricky or had a lot of elements to it. Like what does it look like as you're going through that?
Well, so remember how I said there's short courses, medium courses, and then long courses or field courses? We would typically shoot 3 short courses for every 2 medium courses for every 1 long course. So the way it worked out was we shot 6 stages a day, and that meant that we shot 1 long course or 1 field course every day. We shot 2 medium courses every day, and we shot 3 short courses a day. More often than not, the short courses didn't involve a lot of movement. It was kind of stand and deliver, right? So you would be standing in a shooting area, not a lot of movement. Some of those stages were as short as like 7 or 8 seconds. And some of the long courses could be upwards closer to like 30 seconds to maybe even a minute, depending on the shooter who was shooting them. So if we were to describe the short courses, like I said, most of them were stand and deliver. Not a lot of movement, not a lot of gun manipulation, because we kind of already talked about, like, there's enough rounds in your gun where we're not really reloading too much. So typically, the courses involved shooting, like, what I would call like a static or a stationary steel target, right? So a steel target on a stand, if you had to picture it and you're listening to the podcast, think anywhere from like a 4-inch by 4-inch steel plate that tips over when you shoot it, to a clay target that's on a stand. So when you shoot it, it breaks. We would also shoot activated clay targets or flying clay targets. Sometimes those targets kicked straight up in the air, and sometimes those targets were like a flying clay target, like you would shoot behind the barn.
Do you get a look at how that flies before you shoot?
Yeah, so the basically the RO, the range officer on the stage, would gather the whole squad around, and you would get a look at how that works, right? So they're not going to do it 10 times for you, but they're going to probably do it once or twice just so that you get an idea. If it's a flying clay target, you want to know where it goes, because we might be talking about you might see that target for 1 to 2 seconds during the course. So they want to make sure that you have a good idea of where it's going. They also don't want it to be where the first shooter doesn't get as good of a look as everybody else does. So, I guess just kind of by nature, if you're the 5th or 6th shooter in the line and you're watching everyone ahead of you shoot, you're going to have a better idea of where that target goes. But the first shooter has a very good idea of where it's going or how it moves. Sometimes we even shot like a common target would be like a clay target on a stand that's moving. So maybe we would shoot like a popper target, right? So a piece of steel that tips over, and then that popper target would activate a clay that is on a stand that moves. And so sometimes that was just out in the open and you had to shoot that target, and sometimes that target was hidden behind, let's say, a piece of cover or a big plate of steel. When you shoot your activator target, all of a sudden those clay targets become visible, and you need to shoot them in a very specific cadence. There's not a lot of room for error if you were somebody who is, trying very hard to compete at the top, right? So you might say that, like, well, that target bobs up and down for infinity. And when it stops moving, it's just out in the open. But if you were really trying to be competitive, you would want to shoot both of those targets on the very first presentation, because it might take 2 seconds for that target to become visible again, right? So that time is added on to your score.
And it's usually some kind of Rube Goldberg, too, of you shoot this target over here, that one falls over and it pulls a cable, which activates this thing over there. There's a delay in how long that happens. So can you shoot other targets? Well, so when they're demonstrating activated targets, you're both looking at the presentation itself, and you're also trying to gauge like how much time between when I shoot the activator and when I need to be ready to shoot that target you have.
Yeah, it wasn't like you were looking, I'm going to shoot the activator and then I'm going to sit here and wait for these 2 targets to become available. Yeah. It's what else can I shoot in between there?
Yeah.
Right.
It might be activator, 1 or 2, maybe 3 other targets, and I'll be ready when it pops out.
So within shotgun too, there's different skill sets within shotgun that are tested at a match like this, whether it be a regional championship or one country might have their own shotgun championship, a region might have a championship, or the world shoot. And so within shotgun, we've got not just bird shot, we can also shoot buckshot and also slugs right through that platform. And so that was also something that was tested at that match. We had a couple of stages where we shot slug targets, and then a couple stages where we shot buckshot targets too.
And were they like for this stage? It's 100% buckshot. Yeah. For this stage, it's 100% slugs.
Yeah, we didn't
You're not
mix,
like switching out or anything like that.
No mixing of ammo, right? Because some of those targets actually, if you were to send a slug at a piece of steel, maybe that piece of steel is only 20 yards away. We don't want to send a slug at that in case it bounces back and hits either another competitor or a spectator, right? So
nobody likes that.
Nope. So you're shooting one type of ammo on a stage.
Are you, when you're shooting, I guess are you changing your chokes? I mean, I guess
you're typically changing your chokes on almost every stage.
On every stage. That's what I didn't know. If you're shooting like for, I guess what I'm picturing is like the more standard ones where you're shooting.
Yeah.
Like, so I guess for your typical shotgun type ones, outside of buckshot and slugs, like what does that load look like then? What are you shooting and what choke are you generally shooting? And like you said, maybe that changes.
Well, so within your buckshot stages and your slug stages, typically your shotgun patterns a specific choke better than others. And so within like a buckshot, like my buckshot choke, I believe was just a standard modified choke, right? And so if it was a buckshot stage, I was putting a modified choke in. Slug stage, typically, I believe I was running improved cylinder.
Okay.
So for those stages, there's not really any gaming in your choke selection, but within your birdshot stages, you're looking at the stage and you're looking at the constraints of the stage. So within IPSC, we do shoot penalty targets as well. We don't want to shoot penalty targets, but they're out there, right? And so there might be a benefit on the stage to going to, let's say, a more open choke. So your pattern is larger, except for that one penalty target, and if you hit it, that's that's adding a more time to your or taking points away from your total on the stage. So there could be 1 or 2 targets on a stage that say, I might walk up to a stage and say I want my choke fairly open so I can go faster, right? I can shoot these targets faster. Maybe there's a bunch of clay targets on a stage and I don't need a super tight choke to break clays. But then there would be 1 target at 15 yards with a penalty next to it. So typically you're kind of looking at that lowest common denominator and saying, all right, what's the choke that I can get by with on that penalty target so that I don't shoot that penalty? And you're going with that even though maybe it would be more optimal to pick a different choke.
Yeah, so how much energy do you got to put on a target to knock it over? Are there penalty targets around it to avoid? So we would start constricting the pattern so we don't hit things we don't want to. But also because it's a spread platform, sometimes with the right choke selection, you can get multiple targets with one shot. So that whole spectrum of putting the pattern to work for you, knowing what your pattern will do with different chokes at different distances, to know if you can pick up multiple targets, how much pattern you have to put on something to knock it over for a specific target, or what kind of choke you need to avoid penalty targets and still hit the intended target.
And when I say penalty targets, there's some very challenging shots with a shotgun. There were a couple of stages where there was a penalty target in front of what we call the shoot target. So the target we want to hit, there would be a penalty target in front of it. and maybe you could see an inch of the target you want to hit with birdshot.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's IPSC, very different from a lot of what you see in the United States until now. It's very surgical shotgun work, more similar to what we do with a pistol in the U.S. than anything else.
So, and then I would imagine with that, even with whatever choke you've selected, you're shading your pattern. You're not holding, center of the pattern to break that little bit that you're trying to hit.
So a big part of preparation for a match like this is patterning your shotgun. And my pattern book was basically almost, I didn't pattern, so I've probably got 8 chokes for that shotgun, and it's like, it starts out at extra full, and then it'll go into like improved modified, light modified, and then it goes more open from there, right? I'm probably taking 5 chokes, and I'm shooting that birdshot load starting at about 5 yards and going out to about 35 yards every 5 yards to see where that pattern is. And the one neat part about a lot of the shotguns that are found at a competition like this is, I'm not saying everyone, but a lot of them do have work done to the bore, whether it be like a forcing cone lengthening or back boring, that kind of lends itself to giving you more consistent patterns. So the patterns are very repeatable. We don't want to see little flyers. We don't want to see inconsistent pattern density. I want my pattern to look very similar throughout, right? There's not heavy spots or dark spots within the pattern. I want that shot dispersed evenly inside of that pattern. And so that's why we're going every 5 yards to look at where that pattern falls. And so you have some very tricky holdovers or hold unders or hold off to the edge on a target where on, call it a 15-yard, 4-inch steel plate, if I can see 2 inches of that plate that I want to hit behind a penalty target, I'm probably holding like 4 inches off of the plate that I want to hit.
Right.
Just to knock it over. And even then, you might have a follow-up shot because you didn't get close enough. And so you're kind of working your way into that area that you want to hit, as opposed to starting too close and hitting your penalty target.
Gotcha.
I would say it's very similar to what we would recognize from long-range shooting with rifles, like hold-wise, where people in the U.S. pretty much think of shotguns as point and shoot. Like what Reuben's describing, he's holding his dot a set number of inches or, gut feeling away from a target, trying to gauge where the edge of that pattern is going to be or not be.
Yeah, there was one instance in which there was a target in the center of an array. So that's the shoot target, right? A 4-inch steel plate, and then a no-shoot on each side of it, and then a no-shoot under it. And so the no-shoot underneath it was covering up about half of the plate that you want to hit. So my aim point started out about 4 inches above the plate that I want to hit. My red dot was not even anywhere close to the plate I want to hit, but I want that round pattern to go in between all the targets I don't want to hit the target I do want to hit.
That's a tricky one.
Which, in the sight picture, that looks like a 4mm hold in a rifle. Like your dot's floating there in space.
Right.
But that was cool. Fun. It was challenging. It's impressive. And we have undoubtedly tons of amazing competitors in the U.S. that we shoot with all the time. It was really cool to go and see people from other countries, other shooting cultures, where some of them, the shotgun shooting sports are their main shooting sport, right? Maybe they have some sort of limitation on owning centerfire rifles, or maybe they can't own handguns where they live. And so they compete with shotguns, and they get very, very good at it when they do that a lot.
Were you able to watch, folks from other teams, other countries, and see them doing things differently that you glean some things off of? You're like, I like the way they're doing that. I'm going to try that.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
That's where quad loading came from. From one of the first IPSC matches, the Europeans were doing that, and USA brought that back to the 3-gun market.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, one advantage I would say if you want to call it an advantage, it just good, bad, whatever. It is what it is. Ammo selection here in the U.S., we have a lot of things to choose from, right? And so the ammunition that we were using for our birdshot was Federal's Action Target. And that's a load they developed specifically for this type of competition. And so we were actually probably the only country that had that ammo at that match. And so whether or not, that helped us, I will say it was very impressive to see people from other countries, other shooting cultures using ammo that we would probably look at as not quite good enough for what we want to do, and they were doing very good. And as you can see, like you mentioned at the start, we finished second. We didn't win. So they're doing that with really different equipment and different ammo.
Well, like when you say buckshot or we say buckshot, what load comes to your head?
I mean, for something like this, like a $4 or something, I don't know.
Okay, because I was like in the U.S., normally you say buckshot, people think 9-pellet double-aught.
Okay,
Like,
yeah.
When's the last time you found number $4 sitting on the shelf? Like, I don't know if I've ever even seen it, but it's kind of commonplace there because it's a buckshot stage, so you got to use buckshot, but they use the smaller sizes of buckshot because they get more pellets in there.
I call it the more chances.
Yep. Lead in the air, there's always a prayer,
Yeah. No, I dig it. What, when you're talking getting that ammo over and traveling with it, if I was going to pick a type of ammunition that's bulky, heavy, I would think
that's shotgun shells.
Ammo,
Yeah.
Well, like the first few times I ever even heard about the World Shoot, like I'm not particularly an international travel guy, so it wasn't really on my radar. But some of the things I heard in the periphery was guys going over, I think it might have even been Jerry Micklick, who was like, he's going over there, they're trying to source the ammo, and then the question is will our guns run on their ammo? Similar to like when race teams go overseas, and it's like, will our engines run on their fuel? Or will it run the same way? And so sourcing the ammo, is it better like cost-wise? Because it's expensive to import, export, ordnance, it's ordnance, so it's controlled like all that stuff is. Is it cheaper or more cost-effective to import what we know and are used to, or source it there? And then can you source something there that will work for you? That's a big logistical question for Team USA. I think you guys were fortunate this last time, like the whole team got together and Federal sent a common load over there, and people kind of like said how much they wanted, or how did that work? Federal
it wasn't for us, but yeah, I mean, we did work with USPSA to get that ammo shipped over. So we sourced our own ammo, and then worked with USPSA to get it there. For our team, it wasn't like the whole team had everything. So the team I went with was able to source that ammo through Federal and then get it over there. But yeah, you do have an import tax on that ammo, and then you pay the cost for shipping to get it there. And then when you pick up that ammo, you do have a more or less fee for getting it in there.
Oh yeah,
definitely an extra.
It costs more to get the ammo there and to pay the fees associated with importing ammo than the ammo cost.
Right.
Yes.
By a long shot.
Oh yes.
Yep. Interesting.
Taxation is theft, but we don't understand how true that is.
Yeah. Enough said about that, I guess.
Adam. So
Yes.
this is something you're on the road or the path to doing, something you're interested in. For a person who's listening to this, and obviously, Reuben, you chime in as well, he goes, man, that sounds pretty cool. I like to do these things. Maybe I'd like to get on the road or the path to do this. Like, what's going on right now in this whole process, how people qualify, the selection process itself? How does that work?
Well, that is a big question, right? Because this match has only happened a few times, and the organization in the U.S. that sends a team, USPSA is predominantly a pistol-centric organization. So in the past, it was kind of like a IPSC saying, hey, we're going to do the shotgun match now. And they're like, okay. Does anybody want to go? And then like the people are like, I want to go. It was kind of like the first few times, it was kind of like whoever wanted to go went. And then like when there was more people, it was kind of like, well, how do we pick? And it was kind of, I don't know if arbitrary is the right word, but it was basically a subjective selection of a team based on not really performance in the U.S. because IPSC shotgun in the U.S. isn't really a thing. The action shotgun matches we had in this time period that we're talking about, like post 2010 to current, we would call them tactical shotgun matches, and they're mostly outlaw matches synonymous with what's happening in 3-gun, which is, we'll say, a lot more fast and loose than the type of shooting that's happening in IPSC. So, because the organization that sends it isn't particularly focused on shotgun, but there were people from the 3-gun world that wanted to go, there was kind of this frustration around how do we pick teams, how do we demonstrate who's the best and who has earned the right to go versus who has the right friends that can vouch for them, get them through. So I started getting involved, especially when I became match director of multi-gun nationals for USPSA. I started to have the touch points with people inside the organization to say, hey, we should really look at how our selection process for this works. And everybody pretty much says the same thing. They say, well, we'd love to have about 5 to 6 qualifier matches and pick, best 3 out of 5, and that would be a great way to pick. In a volunteer-centric organization where there are currently no shotgun matches, that's essentially inventing a sport out of thin air. And so over time, we got people together. Enough people got excited about this. And as the match has been going on and Team USA has been sending people over, them being successful and coming back and then telling their friends. I mean, I got interested because Reuben came back to the office and told me how awesome going to Thailand was. I'm like, you know what? It's in Greece next time. Maybe that'd be kind of cool. Got the ball rolling, but
I've heard both those places are like wildly beautiful, like really cool places to visit.
Right. And so
they're picking their match sites well.
Yeah, right. they are. But how do we objectively select a team? We had to essentially campaigned all the match directors individually saying like, hey, we want to do this. And so the match is in 2026, which means the team has to get picked in 2025, this year, which means that all the framework for all of this had to be done last year. All right. To get it through to get everybody on board, to get it through the political process, to get it approved, to get it on the calendars and then start promoting it.
He's talking about so that we have qualifier matches to
have qualifier matches to shoot. And so, the way that teams are getting picked for 2026, there are 6 qualifier matches. 1 happened this fall. There are 5 more in the 2025 season around the country. And essentially, teams are going to get picked from competitors choosing to participate in these matches. And then USPSA is going to take the best aggregate 3 scores that you post in the series, whether you just shoot 3 scores or if you shoot all the events, they'll take your best 3. Best 3 out of 6 in the division that you want to shoot is how they're picking teams, and they're just going down the list. And it's like, okay, well, you're number 1. Do you want to go? Yes. Okay. You're number 2. Do you want to go? Yes. You're number 3. Do you want to go? No. Okay. Number 4. Do you want to go? And they'll run down the line until the slots are gone. We, as a delegation, USPSA, as a delegation, gets a select number of slots to the match. So, say 24, based on how much our size of our membership relative to everybody else. So they'll say, all right, you get 24 slots. Do you want them? We'll say yes. They go to all the other countries too: Poland, Russia, Thailand, the Philippines. Everybody, how many slots do you want? And not all countries use all of their slots. So because you have to pay for them. So everyone kind of gets their first pick at how many slots they're allocated. And then whatever's left over, IPSC will come around again. How many more slots do you want? So Whereas like with the rifle world shoot that just happened last year, we initially got 24 slots. All those filled up almost immediately. We ended up having about 72 people that wanted to go, even if they didn't qualify for a team, even if they just wanted to be part of the delegation and shoot as an individual, not part of Team USA. So like picture, you could go to the Olympics and you could run track, but you're not on Team USA. Like you still get to run the same track and have a score like everybody else. So there were 72 people that said, we want to go, even if we're not on Team USA. All of them eventually got to go, but it's kind of one of those things. There's like a tier process of slots being allocated, and then USPSA has to have a pecking order for how they're going to allocate and pick those teams. And they're trying to fill teams that can win in as many of the divisions as we can, and then also in categories. So juniors, seniors, ladies, super seniors. I think there's even super juniors, which would be even younger kids.
Wow.
So like, we don't necessarily field teams in all those divisions, but it's like, okay, do we think we have a standard ladies team that's going to be competitive? Yep. Okay. Well, they might not be the first thing that's allocated, but when they come around again, it's like, okay, well, these 4 gals, they're pretty solid. Let's put a ladies standard team in the mix. Maybe not enough ladies shot in modified for there to be a team. There isn't going to be a ladies modified team, hypothetically, So they just kind of go down. Everyone's going to shoot in these events, establish a score, and then based on the scores, the selection committee at USPSA is going to be like, okay, we think we have competitive, viable teams in X, Y, and Z divisions and A, B, and C categories. So
these qualifiers that do exist now,
Mm-hmm.
How does a person find out about them? Where are they?
They are currently posted on the major match schedule at uspsa.org. And then there's also a splash page for all things kind of international world shoot IPSC stuff at IPSC, IPSC-USA.com. And that's what that second website, IPSC-USA.com. That is where the selection process is posted. That's where the events are going to be posted. And then ultimately there's going to be a scoreboard there so that we can see like who's kind of how people are stacking up as we move through the 2025 season.
Very cool. What do you guys like about this? In my head, if correct me if I'm wrong, it's like action shotgun shooting though, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do you guys like about it? Do you like it the same or more than other things that you do? Do you like it the most of all the disciplines that you engage in?
I really like it. I've shot, competitive shotgun shooting starting back about like 2012 timeframe, like shotgun only matches, kind of within, like Adam said, the outlaw 3-gun space, but just the shotgun portion of it. That's always been something that's a lot of fun for me. I've managed to do pretty well at it, and so that makes it more fun when you do well at something. I like the single gun discipline stuff is a lot of fun. It takes a little bit of that challenge. So like comparing it to 3-gun, where you're making sure that you have 3 guns that run, and then you have a lot of stuff within a 3-gun stage that isn't shooting. So your gun manipulations and movements and going from one array to the next array and gun transitions, reloading those guns. There's something cool about a single gun discipline that's a lot of fun because you see a lot higher execution of that one skill set, right? And so that was a ton of fun. As it regards to the world shoot, the thing that I really enjoyed about it was going to another country, representing the U.S., working at Vortex. We were in this gun industry space, this firearms industry space. And so going over there, seeing a lot of our products being used internationally was a lot of fun. It was very, very cool to see people using our products, but also just going and representing our industry, our Second Amendment culture abroad was so fun because you see so many people that come up to you and you realize really quickly when you go and you compete with people who live in countries that maybe gun ownership is a lot more restricted, you come back with a whole new appreciation for what we have here in the U.S. And a kind of a renewed desire to fight for those freedoms and rights that we have. It was a blast getting to go over and just see how different people do it in different gun cultures, different competition scenes. And then with the end result we got to go up on the podium and hold the flag in front of, like I said, 1,000 people. And there was a certain professionalism about it that was really special. We didn't realize it, at least I didn't realize it going over there. We were competing against people who they're competing on behalf of their government. Their government sent them. That delegation is going to officially represent that country. And it was kind of funny because, I didn't really necessarily grasp the full weight of that, but we're going over competing against people who that's their job. That's what they do full time. There are several guys from the European shooting world and several guys from Asian and South American shooting cultures that they're there representing their country with their skill with that firearm. And that was cool. Gave me a whole new appreciation for that and going over there. Fun fact, when my team and I, when we had when we finished the match, we were, I want to say, 2.5 points behind the gold team. And that's out of about 5,200 points.
Wow.
So it was really close.
That is a slim margin.
The team from Poland beat us. And, to put it into perspective, how close that is, I shot a penalty in the match. It was a 5-point penalty. It was one pellet buckshot hit a no-shoot target, and I got those points taken off of my score. That one target's the difference between gold and silver, and that's out of 5 days of shooting 30 stages, right?
Wow.
So it was very close, and it was cool because the team from Poland beat us fair and square. And so when we took a picture with them, they said, "Hey, you guys jump up on this." It's too close. Like, that was too close.
Wow.
And so that was cool. I mean, seeing, it was, I wouldn't call it fierce competition in the sense that you're thinking, right? Like, it wasn't aggressive. Like, there was no bad intent towards each other, but it was intense competition. And at the end, when it was all said and done, we were all friends, up taking pictures with the flags of the countries that we represented. It was very special. That will have me trying to go back every chance I get.
There's heat there for sure. I think for me, the things that get me excited about shotgun, to quote a retired match director, in action shotgun, everything makes noise, falls over, or explodes when you shoot it.
Fair enough.
So there's that. I think I've always had a soft spot for the action shotgun shooting because it's kind of something a bit uniquely Midwestern when Reuben and I were getting started. Fun fact, that's where Reuben and I actually met. Pre-Vortex days. So it's been something kind of uniquely Midwestern for my whole shooting career, and it's something that when upper Midwesterners go to other parts of the country, we tend to smash at. Like, when there's an all shotgun stage at a 3-gun match, like, yeah, it was definitely, I mean, it's spread around now, but for a time, it was like, man, if you were going to let us shoot stuff with shotguns, we were going to wreck you.
Adam and I used to go to Iron Man in Idaho. Is just a giant marathon 3-gun match, like one of the best matches ever. And we would be looking at a target array of steel targets, and all the guys from not in the Midwest would look at a target and say, "That's a pistol target," and we would look at a target and say, "That's a shotgun target."
Yeah,
and they would say, "Why?" And then we would shoot, and they would say, "Okay, yeah, we get it."
Knock 3 of them over with one shot.
Yep,
and stuff like that. So, and then so there's all that, and like, kind of getting a taste for how special it was to be uniquely good at something like that, go other places and be a dominant force in that. Well, now multiply that by 10, you know, it's like, well, this is kind of our thing, and here's the world stage to do it. And ultimately, I mean, how many chances in a lifetime do you get to try and be the best in the world at something? Like, it doesn't come around very often. And you know, it's the Olympics of our sport. You don't get to go and represent to other countries very often what we do here. I mean, I would put it on par with representing Canada in hockey at the Olympics. Like, it's, you know, we're one of the predominantly pro-gun ownership countries in the world. I think we should prove to the world on a regular basis that we're the best at it, you know?
I like that attitude.
So that's
chills.
where, you know,
I will not be competing against Adam.
So, like, that's where, I mean, I got involved with trying to pick the teams before I even decided to go. I'm even, like, on record video saying, like, I'm not even trying to go, especially around the Rifle World Shoot stuff. But I think we should pick the best team so that it's not just, well, here's the people that wanted to go on a shooting vacation internationally. It's like, no, this is the Olympics of our sport. We should send the heat. And if the heat is, you know, in the swamps of Louisiana, we should go find that guy and find a way to get him there, so that the world can know that we're the best at this.
Oh, what good shooters have ever come from Louisiana?
I can't really think of any off the top.
Jimmy something. Jerry.
There
it is.
You made that up.
One cool part, we don't see this a lot in the U.S. I think potentially just maybe it's because shooting is so common among everyday people in the U.S. Like, whereas in other countries, it's harder to own firearms in a lot of places, and so there was a very, I would say, a strong media presence at this match, like what we would call mainstream.
Okay, right.
Media focused around athletic events.
I mean, the way you guys are describing it as essentially the Olympics of shotgun shooting, like, that carries some weight to it. Like you said, there's a lot of pride here for the people who are participating. The gravity of the outcome of your team is, you know, I mean, that's a pretty significant, heavy thing. Like, it has a lot of meaning to it.
Yeah, my travel mate Dylan and I were we had gotten back to the hotel room after shooting and saw clips from the match on the evening sports on TV.
It's so cool.
On whatever the equivalent of, say, like an ESPN.
The Ocho.
Sure, yeah.
But, and like in some of these other countries, I mean, it's kind of a flex to have guns. There are a lot of people in other countries, they participate in IPSC because that's the way you can own guns.
Gotcha.
And a lot of the people that Team USA goes up against in the match, essentially kind of like Reuben alluded to, they're kind of oligarchs that kind of get to do this full time. They don't have real jobs. They do this, you know, and so it's kind of weird.
Shooting is a real job, Adam.
I know, right? But they get to be professional athletes. Kind of like, there aren't very many action shooters that get to be legit full-time 100% focused professional athletes. And then we, the country that you know is the most accessible to gun ownership, we go over there and it's just a bunch of folks that like kind of take on the man, you know, on a national stage. It's a good movie. It writes itself.
Yeah, it was great. I would say if you're looking, kind of follow the steps that Adam said to get involved. And even if you're not looking, pay attention to what the U.S. does in 2026 in Athens or in Corinth.
Yeah. Well, and also, like, even if you don't want to go, like, let's make sure we're sending the best guys. Like, go to the matches and give them some heat, so that we can pick the best guys. I also think the one-gun sports are kind of the future of action shooting. Like, pistol shooting has been very developed in the U.S., but single-gun action rifle, single-gun action shotgun haven't been as developed. I think there's lots of room for all of that to grow. and sort of be the pipeline into various forms of action shooting and multi-guns. So
I like it. Well, I appreciate the time, guys. And, man, for everybody listening out there, if you want to prove to the world that you are the best on a world stage
With a scattergun, follow, like we said, the steps Adam outlined here. And
IPSC-USA.com. The first one is in, it's near Houston, or near Austin, Texas, in the end of March. And then it will be South Carolina, end of February, Kansas City in June, Minnesota in August, and Nebraska in September.
Very cool. I liked what you said, Adam. How many times in your life do you get to prove to the world that you're the best at something?
I like it. It's funny because it's true, but I was picked last for every sport I ever played. And then one day I got the chance to swing the bat in the pros when I got made it into the 3 Gun Nation Pro Series, and I just decided I was going to swing that bat as hard as I could because you're only going to get one pitch. And it's coming around again. Like anybody who wants to can sign up and put their hat in the ring to try and swing the bat in the majors. Try to do that in soccer. Try to do that in alpine skiing. It's a lot harder to do. So if you want to do it, here's your chance.
I like it. Awesome. All right, everybody. Thanks, everybody, for listening. And maybe we'll see you out at one of these matches.
I hope so.
We'll catch you on the next one. Bye.
There you have it, folks. Thank you very much for listening. As usual, give this video a like if you liked it, comment something below, and give us a subscribe to the Vortex Nation podcast channel. It would mean a lot to us. Also, why don't you give us a follow over on Instagram while you're at it, at Vortex Nation Podcast. We'd love to hear from you over there, and we'll keep you updated with all kinds of cool photos and videos from our adventures that we do here. Otherwise, we will see you on the next one. Thank you again. Happy hunting and shooting, everybody. Have a good one.